Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Happy Wednesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Yesterday, we discussed this concept of bringing it out to bring it in. I want to explain what that means, and we're dancing around it, but let me just sort of try to hit it. It's hard for you to know. It's hard for us to know what to do. It's hard for us to know how to be empathetic to ourselves, to give ourselves the chance to overcome our own challenges, to forgive ourselves. That's hard, really hard. It's hard for us to believe we can, for us to live in the right moment. Like, it's hard for us to do stuff, and we know the stuff we got to do, right? You ever like listen to someone give you advice and you're like, yeah, I know. Now you dismiss it because you think you know it, but it's not about whether you get it, it's whether you can apply it. There's a major mistake people make. They think that the value of the advice is in the knowledge of the advice. It's not true. The value of the advice is also in the application of the advice. So if someone tells you something that you know already but you haven't been doing it, well, then you don't know it well enough. And when you hear it for the 800th time, maybe you'll apply it, and that's valuable. Because application is the applied wisdom. That's really where it comes down to. So we spoke about this concept, and this is what we're sort of getting at right now, is the idea that people are in need of their own values, their own confidence, and it's hard to get it, and you're not going to get it by searching for it because you're stuck. This is the quagmire. This is the paradox. This is what blocks us. If we could just articulate it, I think it's helpful, in my opinion. We know stuff, and we can't apply it. That's it. Simple. We get 100 on the psychology test and a 50 on the applied psychology test. We know it, we can't apply it. So how do you apply it? You apply it by giving it. By giving it. And by giving it, you are using yourself as a conduit for someone else. You don't have to worry about all the baggage that you don't want to listen, which is why you don't want to listen to it, right? It's someone else's problems. You get to just be the sage. And then once it comes through your system, through your mind, through your soul, through your mind, through your mouth, now it's out in the world. And now that it's out in the world, you can bring it back into your life. Out, in. Take it out to bring it in. That's how a value works, right? You see a parent, a grandparent, and you're like inspired by them. And you love going to see them, a mentor, somebody, and you just keep on going to see them, but you don't really grow. And then one day, someone says, hey, what inspires you about your grandparent? And you go, well, they're really good at X. You brought it out. You've brought out the value. Now it's in the world. Now you've articulated it. Really? Why are they so good at that? Well, they came from here, and they're really, really resilient, and they overcame challenges, and I'm just so inspired by that. Maybe you had to do a presentation in front of your class when you were in 5th grade. Maybe you had to speak about them at, hopefully a happy event, whatever it is. Now that it's out, the value of why that person's inspiring is articulated. Now you have a chance to say, oh, I want to be like that. And the next time that I hit my version of that failure, right? When the 8th grader says, I love my grandparents because they survived the Holocaust and they're still, doing it. They're still, fighting every day, and they're still doing their stuff, and they're still doing their whatever. And I learned how to overcome challenge. Then that kid, maybe the kid's too young, but that kid now is sitting at his desk, and he's thinking, oh my God, I also should do this. How does he know that? He knows it because he went to his grandparents. He brought out the value into the world, and now once the value is out into the world, he brought it back into his life and applied it. You bring it out, bring it back in. That's how it works. So the way you grow in your confidence, the way you grow in your own self, is not when somebody else brings it in. That's good, but it's not good enough. Because when someone else brings in the information, it hasn't been assimilated into your mind, right? Your mind goes through a process of where it assimilates information, where it accommodates information, where it revises your mental models. When someone else is successful at their lives, it doesn't necessarily mean you understand how to be successful in your life. So their story could be inspiring because their story may have values that you know are true values, but it's not going to apply to you. So as a result, what ends up happening is it sort of inspires, you sort of pick it up, and then it leaves because you brought it into your mind, but you didn't use it to revise your mental model. When somebody comes in and they hear the information and they process it and they use it to upgrade their own way of thinking, that's when the change starts to happen. The upgrading is where it happens. So when I hear about somebody who fails and overcomes challenge, and I start to see that perfection isn't real, that it's just made up, but that failure is a key piece of the growth process. The first time I hear that from a Michael Jordan who says he failed, or from whoever, my brain goes, what, is that true? That's Michael Jordan. Wait, but is that true? I don't know. And I start to assimilate the information in my head. And then I look out in the world and I hear it again, and I hear it again, and I hear it again. Is that true? Could it be? Failure leads to success? And I hear about a story about a company that pivoted, and I hear a story about a guy, whatever. And I keep on hearing and hearing and hearing. And as I do it, what's happening is my mind is revising and revising and revising. My belief system is revising. My belief system is changing subtly, neuroplasticity, mental modeling, subtly. What? That person who I thought was totally evil because they're just a human being? Really? I misjudged them? Wait, I misjudged someone else like them? Oh, I have my own unconscious bias? I didn't realize every time I look at these types of people, I always make assumptions. I do that? Oh my God, you're right. I did that here, I did that here, I did that here. Someone did it to me. I know how it feels. It feels terrible. My brain is adapting. Wait a second. This thing called unconscious bias is real. I do that all the time. I didn't realize it. And someone did it to me just now, and I felt terrible. By the way, this is a real story. It happened to me. I'm like, I don't have any unconscious bias. I'm not a bias guy. And I was once at a training recently, and they made you go through a system where you had to identify your unconscious bias. And you end up finding like what you think that are just shortcuts and judgments of people. And then I was in a situation and someone made like a totally like comment to me. I was like, what are you talking about? And I realized they're just judging me because of how I looked. And I was like, what? And I'm like, wait, this is how it feels. And the person was doing it wrong. I mean, he was wrong, but like he wasn't like a bad guy. And so realizing that like you're bias, not bias like you're racist bias, not bias like you stereotype bias, like you have your own way of seeing the world, and if other people don't fit into that specific model, you make quick judgments. That happens every day of the week for everybody, but we're not conscious of it. Someone points it out and you're like, nah. Your brain's like, can't be. Then it starts to assimilate the information. Could it be? You see it in this example. You hear someone else say it. Huh. Is that what's going on? Someone does it to you. Now you know what to look for. You see what's happening? It's brought out in the world. Now you know how to operate with it. After a week, 2 weeks, 3, you're like, wait a second. I have to be more careful. I'm making judgments about people. I'm making judgments about things that could be wrong. My brain is adapting. When you grow, what is growth? Growth is the evolution of your own thinking. And we know people like this that are 40s and their thinking really hasn't evolved since they were 15, 16. They still say things. I'm not saying totally. They still say things that sound like they haven't really thought about it in 20 plus years. And I know other people who are always adapting. This is why, by the way, I always worried about. To me, one of the things, politics bothers me on a lot of levels. Just not for now. Today's politics bothers me. Just the whole thing. But either way, what always got me, was when somebody brings up a quote that the politician said, like in high school. You ever see this? They're in a debate, and they're like, "Well, we think that," and forget like we think that healthcare should be like this. I'm like, really? Well, we found in 8th grade when you were writing your essay, you said healthcare shouldn't be like this, and I'm thinking, what? That was 8th grade. Like, what? This person's 60. They can't change their thinking. What, are you kidding me? We found in your high school thesis that you felt that the Constitution should be read literally, and now apparently you feel there should be some interpretation. I'm thinking, yeah, it's called growing up. I don't understand. Assimilating information is part of how you grow. All right, we'll talk about this tomorrow. All right, everybody. Have a great day. With God's help. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow.
Living on a lifeline. The world doesn't ever seem to change. Looking for the sunshine, but you're caught up in the rain. It's like your eyes are wide open, but you cannot see. You're watching life pass you by like 1, 2, 3. Walking in destruction. The winds of life blur your vision. All the devastation. Forever feels like you're on the run. It's time. No one else can set you free. You're locked inside, and only you have got the key.